Welcome to our channel. Get ready for a collection of incredible stories that will send shivers down your spine. If you love mystery and horror, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us bring you more thrilling content. Now, turn off the lights, get comfortable, and let's dive into the stories. Fall. Early October. That period of time when it is not yet cold, but not hot. It gets dark early. Morning. Oleg woke up from an unbearable pain in his entire body. Every muscle, every bone literally whimpered and throbbed, as if he unloaded a truck with construction material all night, and at the end of the work, he was shoved under the truck and drove on it several times. Forward, backward, forward, backward. Oleg stared at the ceiling for a few minutes, trying to remember yesterday. And what was yesterday? He did not remember that, and as the man did not try to remember anything, even the slightest memory and moments, he failed. It was as if someone had torn out of his head everything connected with yesterday, like a page from a book. In general, he vaguely remembered how he moved to this place, apparently, on the background of stress and experience of the brain completely stuck, but the reason why he was here, Oleg remembered clearly. Oleg left the warm bed and took a course towards the bathroom. Olshek, what has become of you?" said the man aloud, looking at his reflection in the mirror. By the age of 40, Oleg Genedyevich was a very wealthy and successful man, owned a company and real estate in a major metropolis. He had everything: bags of money, cool expensive cars, women, a carload and a small cart, parties in the circles of influential people. Beautiful and seemingly carefree life, which many can only dream of. But the key word was. And now what? Now what? Now, once respected and recognized by almost every dog, Oleg Genedyevich became a hermit. Oleg, having said goodbye to everyone, left the noisy party, sat behind the wheel of an expensive sports car, started the engine and ran at full speed, trying to get as quickly as possible to the opposite end of the city, where his luxury mansion was located. He had a little too much to drink, which subsequently affected his condition in general, and the late evening outside the window, and the man from early morning on his feet and all in business. Here Oleg has already passed the turn, 2 more kilometers and he is home. Finally will throw off his stupid suit and put on lightweight loose clothes, collapse on the bed, turn on some game on the TV and just relax from the bustle and bored already social events. While Oleg reasoned where it is better to throw his bones, on the 2nd or 3rd floor, he did not notice the kid on the crosswalk, or rather noticed, but it was too late. Brake squeal. A strong impact. When the car came to a complete stop, Oleg got out and ran up to the guy, who was thrown a few dozen meters away. The man hoped that the guy was all right, that he would survive, and he just had scratches and bruises, at worst a few fractures. But everything turned out to be much worse. The guy received injuries incompatible with life and died in his arms. Oleg Genedyevich was very worried about his reputation, because what will people say when they find out that he is a murderer, even if everything came out by accident, so he involved his people. From the body was disposed of, taken and buried so far away that in life no one will find, also disposed of, and the car, on the hood of which painted a considerable size dent. Then Oleg learned it was the son of a very influential man in their city, who wandered into his neighborhood to the girl he was dating, and if Oleg considered himself a big fish, then against the background of the father of the dead teenager, he was dwarf bull Corfu, which reaches in length a measly 22 millimeters. Oleg, realizing that the case is bad, and no money will not save him, decided to sell the business, real estate, all property, cash all the funds, so as not to shine anywhere, and get away from the city. That's what he did. Naturally, he had to drop the price so that the buyers would find him sooner, but Oleg was not very much interested in money at that moment. He just needed to disappear, to erase his name and memories of him from everywhere. So he found himself here, in the middle of the forest. All he had now was an ordinary 1-story house, with a garage and a gazebo, as well as an old Neva. He missed his former life, but it was suicide to return to the city, and even so, as a hermit, in proud solitude, far from civilization and all the benefits, but everything is better than feeding fish in some lake or resting in the forest in different packages. He had a strong desire for life. He did not intend to give up just like that and sincerely did not understand those who deprived themselves of life, because how can one part with life so easily? Life, it is one, although the thing bitter, but pleasant, life is a gift that should not be denied, Oleg told himself every time he was overcome by the desire to move to the city, and let not in his native. He knew he would be found, and at best, killed. In the worst case, he will suffer, long and painful, which is extremely unwanted. He knew that the father of the dead man would do anything to find his son, and there would be people involved in this case who would get the devil out of the ground, and in fact, all roads would lead to him, no matter, sooner or later the truth would come out. But still, in his heart, Oleg hoped that here, in this wilderness he will be able to hide and wait. After all, someday everything will calm down. Having finished his bath, Oleg hurried outside. There he took a pile of wood from the stack, came back and started to light the fireplace. Today it is cool. The man checked the draft, then stacked the wood, then checked the draft once more and, making sure that it was safe to light, started the fire. The house became cozy and warm, and Oleg plumped into an armchair and began to read a book, which were a large number of books in the bookcase, left by the former owner of the house. From the phone, the internet, social networks and other nonsense Oleg refused, that's why he began to read a lot. There was nothing to occupy himself. Of course, he could go fishing, go on a quiet hunt for porcini mushrooms, but for this he was not in the mood. And he didn't remember if he ever went anywhere but the nearest village, which was 30 kilometers away, where Oleg bought groceries. Reading was interrupted by a knock in the attic, then another and another. Oleg put aside the book and began to listen. It did not seem to him there was definitely something knocking upstairs, and he decided to find out what it could be. The man went out into the corridor, put on his jacket and went outside. It was necessary to climb to the attic through the gable, and Oleg immediately began to climb the half-rotten steps of the wooden ladder. Once in the attic, Oleg whistled. The whole space was literally filled with different things, old junk and other crap. An old trunk, the same ancient bicycle, boxes of New Year's toys of Soviet times, a child's bed, it was all covered with a thick layer of dust. And that's just what Oleg managed to see for a few minutes of being here. Soon the source of the knocking was discovered. It was a small window, which because of the draft opened and then closed, thereby making a nasty sound. Oleg closed it on the latch, eliminating the problem, then continued to search the attic. The man decided that the occupation for today would be to disassemble the attic, and the time will be useful, and boredom will dispel, and, after all, maybe something worth catching among the mountain of junk. How was it? 3 hunters with 1 hare? Thought to himself Oleg and laughed. The rest of the day Oleg spent in the attic, sometimes coming down to throw wood to keep warm, for the evening cold. Toward evening Genedyevich caught the sound of a car engine in the vicinity of his house, but when he jumped out into the street could not see anything. Writing it all off as a glitch, he left the attic and went into the kitchen. He was craving a cup of coffee. But when he opened the kitchen cabinet door, he found an empty coffee can. Saddened, he took his car keys and wallet, drove the car out of the garage and set off for the village. Others will say nonsense, for a can of coffee to travel 30 kilometers one way and the same amount in the opposite direction, but for Oleg it was easy, just a short walk, especially, he could not without coffee, the habit of the former chic life, when you sit in a warm cozy office, looking at some stinking papers and eating coffee non-stop. It was getting dark. From the speakers, located in the trim of the doors of the Niva, loudly played a catchy song. Oleg did not understand what they were singing, because it was foreign, but he sang along as best he could. The mood was good, and it seemed that nothing could spoil it. It should be said that from Oleg's house to the main highway led in some places broken, with holes and potholes, but still asphalted road, surrounded by dense forest on both sides. About halfway down the road there was a makeshift bridge, consisting of 2 reinforced concrete slabs, which allowed to pass through the riverbed, now dried up. Where water used to flow, thorns and thistles now grew, and what used to be called a river now resembled a large ravine. Oleg, singing along and moving his head to the beat of the music, completely forgot that ahead of the bridge and should slow down, and at the moment when the bridge was less than a dozen meters away, a man ran out of the ravine, right in front of the bridge. From the surprise, Oleg pressed the brake pedal and honked, but, like that time, it was too late. The Niva crashed at a decent speed into the man, who flew back into the ravine from the powerful impact. Genedyevich continued to sit in the car, numb with fear. His hands did not obey at all, as if numb. A coarse shiver ran through his whole body. Oleg could not believe that it happened again. He was pulled out of his stupor by the parking lights of a parked car on the side of the road, among the trees on the other side of the bridge, but it was impossible to see the whole car. Oleg could think of nothing better than to turn the car around and head back home. To hell with it, with that coffee, be damned, because of him he hit a man. All sorts of thoughts flashed through his mind. What if that man was alive and needed help, and Oleg just took off like a coward, leaving him there, wounded, maimed, or worse, dead? However, he quickly calmed himself down, finding himself a lot of excuses, say, it was his own fault, got out on the road, and it's dark what the eye can see, plus the brakes are bad, and in general, I don't care what he wanted, since when did he start to worry about others? Drink, urgently need a drink, Oleg mentally summarized, getting out of the car. He went into the house. Without taking off his shoes, he went to the refrigerator, took out an opened bottle of cognac, took some bread, sausage slices, then left the house and went to the gazebo. There he sat down at the table and drank from the throat, then another and another, then smoked and began to think about what to do next. Soon Oleg, who had experienced a lot of stress, under the influence of alcohol, passed out in the gazebo, sitting at the table. He woke up closer to lunch the next day from the fact that he was freezing to the bone. It was cold outside, as it was not the month of May. Genedyevich, shaking from the cold, tapping his teeth, moved towards the log pile, grabbed some wood and went into the house with the intention of lighting the fireplace to warm himself. He walked in, kicked off his shoes, then made his way to the living room, freed his hands from the wood, and oh, miracle, the fire in the fireplace was burning, crackling greedily with wood. Shiza crept up imperceptibly, thought Oleg, and looked around. The house was quiet, everything was in its place, there was no sign of someone else's presence. The only explanation that came to Oleg's mind was that he woke up in the night, lit the fireplace, warmed himself up and went back to the gazebo to pour a drink by the scruff of the neck, where he fell asleep. But at the same rate it was possible to drink at home in the warmth, and not there to freeze like a stinking dog. It's all strange, very strange, Genedyevich reasoned, squatting in front of the fireplace with outstretched arms, warming himself and enjoying the process itself. Damn, completely out of my head slipped my mind, yesterday I hit a man, and I'm sitting here getting high, idiot. Oleg slapped his forehead with the palm of his hand. The man fell into a chair and began to think over the further plan of action. There is a chance that the man survived, was able to help himself and get to the settlement, and I should wait for guests? There is such a chance. And it is also possible that he died there, in the ravine, and his car is still standing on the roadside. Until yesterday, I don't remember anyone traveling that road but me. And what if the one whom I accidentally hit, one of the people of that big fish, came on my trail and thus appeared on my soul? In general, there are a lot of options, and you can think forever, but it is worth it to go there and check. If there is a corpse, I'll bury in the woods, the car burn to hell. If there is no corpse or car, then wait for trouble, reasoned Oleg, looking at the ceiling. Something was happening in the attic, strange and incomprehensible sounds, as if something was dragging on the floor. Creaks, the clinking of glass, all this made Oleg flinch every time. What on earth was going on in there? I locked the window yesterday, put everything in order, put everything in its place, collected the garbage in bags, what else is there? Okay, stop. Why do I remember yesterday in every detail, and the day before yesterday as if it never happened? It's weird, and it's scary. Is the schizophrenia really that progressive? Okay, it does not matter. In any case, in the evening I will go to check what is there with that type, or bury, or have to get away, roam like stray cats, Because to wait until I'm sewed up, do not want to, summarized Oleg and went outside. He took out a shovel, garbage bags, tape, a can of gasoline and loaded all the goods into the trunk of the car. Strange was the fact that the car was parked near the house, although Oleg remembered that he drove it into the garage. Then Genadievich decided to take a nap, as he might have a long, hard night ahead of him. The sounds in the attic did not stop, but the man had not the slightest desire to go and check what was there, and who knows what was there, maybe a bird flew in, or maybe rats, it did not matter. For several minutes Oleg turned from side to side, grunting and swearing, but finally he managed to fall asleep. He woke up on the alarm clock, which he had set beforehand, so as not to sleep longer than he should. The time was perfect for his idea. The sun was gradually slipping toward the horizon. Just before he would get there it would start to get dark, because doing such things in broad daylight was not a good idea, even though it was very rare to meet anyone in these parts, as experience had shown. Oleg went out of the house, and once again checked whether everything was taken, went on the road. After reaching the bridge, the man realized that his fears were not in vain, for in that place, where yesterday was parked the car, was now empty. He decided to leave his Neva in that place, got out of the car, took a shovel with him just in case, and then began to descend into the ravine. The bank of the former river was steep, so Oleg could not hold on and rolled down. A few somersaults and Genadievich is already lying among the thorns. Making sure that nothing hurt himself, picking up the shovel, Oleg went to the place where the victim was supposed to fall. He made a few turns around himself, checked the bushes, but he failed to find a corpse or traces of its presence. Survived means, we must go, thought Oleg and made an attempt to climb out of the ravine. Realizing that climbing back up the same way he had come down would not work, the man headed for the opposite bank, where he thought the slope was not so steep. At the moment when Oleg managed to get to the surface, he wanted to quickly get to the place where he left his Neva and get away. Genadievich ran, and at the same moment was blinded by the illumination of the car headlights, then a long signal and a bang. Genadievich continued to sit in the car, numb with fear. His hands did not obey at all, as if numb. A coarse shiver ran all over his body. Oleg could not believe that it happened again. He was pulled out of his stupor by the parking lights of a parked car on the side of the road, among the trees on the other side of the bridge, but it was impossible to see it in its entirety. Oleg could think of nothing better than to turn the car around and head back home. To hell with that coffee, damn it, because of it, he hit a man. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe to the channel. Until next time.